Hey, I'm back already, and I'm kind of binge recording videos here. The last one, number 39, and recorded it, checked it out before I release it. So I said, well, it's only 9 o'clock at night here on a Sunday night, so I'm going to make the next video with the next like third or so records that I haven't shown. And I'm calling this one Thrift Store Vinyl Finds number 40. We don't hear, we listen. What do I mean by that? It's like I think that people like us who like records, or maybe if we've always had records, or ones that are getting into like record collecting, maybe from their folks and that, I think as far as music goes, we have a different mentality, I think, than people who just want to, download things. I think, to me, I'm not going to pontificate too long before I get into the record things, but I think there was a guy that I was talking to, a friend or whatever, and he brought up somehow the subject about listening to music or records, and I said, the difference between having a hard copy document like a vinyl record is that when you select it, take it out, inspect it, maybe dust it off if it needs it or clean it, you're actually preparing your mind for an event. And I know a while back, I can't remember, Super Wes, who I used to follow his videos, he said it's like when you're putting on a record, it's like you're preparing to like watch a movie or something, because you have this kind of hard copy document that you have to put on some sort of a machine, and then you play it. So you're preparing your mind for an experience. It's not just like, like if you walk into a store and how and this is another thing that I complained about to a friend or whatever. I said, I can't stand walking into a store where they're always, the music that they seem to play only seems to be meant for like a 13-year-old girl would be into. It's like the most schlocky stuff. And I know I'm right at that age where it's like, yeah, you pull that music. I'm at the old man stage now. But that's how I feel, But when it comes to vinyl records, pretty much, or even CDs still, if you still buy CDs, you're preparing your mind for an experience. So your mind is like gearing up for full attention to what you're going to hear. So in other words, you're not just hearing it, you're listening, because you have to do some tangible things before you can play that music. And then you have that, like I said, you have that document, and everybody talks about, well, you have this full, like I said, you have this large thing where it has artwork and notes and things like that, and that's part of the experience of really appreciating music on vinyl. So that's my little sermon here on listening over just hearing music. So without any further ado, oh, by the way, I wanted to show you this beer I've been drinking. It's Capital Brewery, Wisconsin Amber there. Kind of a more regional brew here, because I live in Wisconsin, where beer literally, flows out of the ground if you shoot a gun into it. We're like the drinking beer capital of the planet, So, but anyway, if you weren't too into country or whatever, bear with me. I only have few things here that were still country, kind of like from my last video. And then I got some rock stuff, and some cool finds, hard to find stuff too that I found at like Goodwill and the antique mall in my town here. So anyway, I did find this box set, Treasury of Country Music. And you know what I always find about when you find like things like this? I think these things were like probably given as gifts to people, and maybe they thought, oh, I got all these records, I don't think I got time to play them. And it's like they always seem to be in like really good condition, because maybe like the person who bought it or owned it, they just never really, I don't know, maybe they thought, oh, this is just too much music for me to like consume. at once or something. But I've seen other things. I've seen some other couple other box sets kind of like this too, and I passed those up. I kind of like pulled out all these discs, and they're all in like near mint condition. So I might even give this to my mother, because my mother's kind of like, she's kind of like asked me about certain artists or whatever, and I said, oh, you should have told me. I got rid of all those records or whatever. She asked me like about Joan Baez, because she grew up in the back when I was a very little child in the early '60s. You know how Bob Dylan and Joan Baez were kind of like together sort of, and that whole folk thing was going on. So I actually, in fact, I'm not going to show those, but I actually found a couple of her at Joan Baez in concert, and I'm probably going to like check them out on my turntable and give them to her. So, but anyway, this, like I said, these box sets, they always seem to be in. I always come across stuff like this. If it's something I like, it's usually in mint shape. So I talked about Tammy Wynette in my last video. This is a kind of a compilation of her too. It was in good shape. I think I played some of that. And you got the classic bluegrass guys, Flat and Scruggs. Great to find that. And in that PBS documentary on country music, there was a lot about Hank Williams here. I never had like all of his early stuff, but this is a compilation of, you know, his earliest stuff. So that was good to find. Got that at the antique shop for $7. $7. Emmylou Harris is kind of like, she was kind of like a crossover or whatever. I have almost all her early stuff, so I kind of like her. This I was excited. Okay, now we're in more of the rock stuff here. I've never come across this record. I didn't even know this record existed, but everybody remembers Hang On Sloopy by the McCoys, and you know, a while back I found that album too in decent shape. But this, I think this was their second and maybe their last record or last album. The McCoys, Make Me Feel So Good, and this is in excellent shape. It's got a little damage you can see on the back, but it's a really cool record. A lot of this stuff is still covers, but there's a couple tracks that Rick Zeringer, and later obviously Derringer, but one called Mr. Summer he wrote. It sounds pretty cool. The first track, Say Those Magic Words, is a really good, kind of has that kind of a folk rock thing vibe going on there. But I was really surprised to find this, and I found this. I think I found this at Goodwill for like $1. So I was very lucky to find that. I really like that record. Another group that I'm always on the lookout for is this one, the New Colony 6, Attacking a Straw Man. So I was very lucky to find that. You know, anything on Mercury is hard to find because, you know, there always, Mercury wasn't a record company that kind of like, you know, they put out a run of stuff and then that would be it, you know. This is a folk guy. I've actually, and another thing too, and when I'm showing these, I'm actually going back in time to where I found these records. These are like earlier and earlier finds. Some of these are like over a year ago. But anyway, I found this, Eric Anderson, a folk singer about changes and things on Vanguard. And I paid $8.25. If you can see that, there's a sticker on there. I found that at the antique mall. And here's another thing that I think I did find this at Goodwill. I don't think I've even played this yet. But that's the Holy Molo Rounders Indian War Hoop. I don't know anything. The only thing I ever knew about the Holy Molo Rounders was that that song from Easy Rider. Remember that? If you want to be a bird. I thought, well, these guys are, what are these guys smoking, right? Now this was I found this one. I never owned this one. I'm not really crazy. I mean, I like the Moody Blues, but this was kind of like, to me, this was kind of like a mediocre record by them. I mean, they still had most of the original members, but I don't know, maybe I'll warm up to it later. But I did, you know, I'm kind of a completist with certain groups, so even the Moody Blues, I'm gonna collect all their stuff. Here's another kind of rare thing. I remember this was a single. It was an instrumental back in the early single. Uh, Kimo Sabi, the Electric Indian. So that was kind of a unique find there. That was a kind of like an Indian rhythm. I don't know how to explain it, but it was like one of those instrumental hits that kind of like became like a flash in the pan, and then it disappears, you know, for like decades. He was kind of like an ethnic singer. I had played some of this. I'm not really crazy about it, but I'll hold on to it. It was this Maria Ortiz, I guess. She's kind of a, I think she's instrumental. I can't remember if she has singing or whatever, but I thought I'd check it out. I'll hold on to it. Now here's a band I never heard of, but Elton John must have nurtured these guys or whatever, because it's on his Rocket record company, Long Dancer group. They're kind of like, I don't know, kind of like folky yacht rock or something you might call them. And I think maybe this guy is related to, or what's his name, the drummer in Elton John's band. His last name is Olsen. I can't think of his first name. He might be related to the drummer in Elton John's band, whatever. But it's on Rocket Records there. And I have played it. Sounds pretty unique, kind of like that British kind of folk kind of thing going there. I think this is their second album. This is the Raspberries. They're kind of power, you know, one of the early power pop groups, early 70s there. I think I found this at Goodwill too. I can't recall. Now here's some. I think this band is from Milwaukee. I don't know. I can't even remember if I've even played it yet. But some group called Space Raft. If you look at the back, it says this was recorded in Milwaukee or whatever. You can freeze the video there. So don't know much about them. I got a couple early records by Harper's Bazaar here. Anything Goes. I don't think I played this yet. Looked to be in decent shape. And another one, The Secret Life of Harper's Bazaar. Interesting artwork. This, I believe, I don't know if this is going to be a spare copy or a replacement copy, but it's Friends by the Beach Boys. Now, I can't even recall if I think I've had this already. This might be it. I have to compare these for condition. Here's the Supremes A Go-Go. And let me look at, see, I'm just curious to see what this looks like. It looks halfway decent. I'm just checking it out now. I can't even recall if I tried playing this yet. But I've rarely come across like Supremes that isn't like their greatest hits or whatever. I've come across that several times, but to come across like ones that aren't, to me, is pretty rare, because they were, you know, Motown, they were mostly singing or mostly selling seemed to be singles anyway, and then they would have like a compilation or whatever. Now this is a I think this is I already had this. In fact, I even showed this record in an older video. But this might be in better shape. This may end up being a replacement copy. This is Woody at What's Up Tiger Lily soundtrack, Lovin' Spoonful. In fact, in my video that I showed this before, I said, you know, this is actually one of the most collectible Lovin' Spoonful records for some reason. And then I found this one. I've never come across this one. This is also Lovin' Spoonful. Daydream. I think I found this one at Goodwill too. I can't remember. I don't think I've. Now this one, I was kind of. This is like a song too that I remember way back in I think 1971. It was kind of like a decent. It might have been maybe a top 10 hit or something. Ardeen Taylor. Of course, that has Indiana Wants Me. Never found this record ever before. It even has a little hype sticker. Not well, that's not a hype sticker. It's just like printed on. It looks like a sticker. But very cool find. Very. I think it's in really good shape. Yeah. It's got that record there. And that's what I'm actually surprised. Even in 2019, you can still go to like Goodwill and you'll come across, you know, records like this in like near mint shape for some reason, you know. Now I think this is also a replacement copy. I can't remember where I got this, but I first had this on CD, and I still have the CD, but this is Gordon Lightfoot, Gord's Gold, kind of like a greatest hits or whatever. And then I got here's another one of those early folk groups, Hootenanny with the Highwaymen. I have played this, I think, once. It's kind of like a live record, live in a small club or something. This one is kind of like, I bought it more out of curiosity. I'm not really into that super prog stuff like I used to be when I was in my mid to late teens. But anyway, I thought this is probably a significant record for technical reasons, but this is Mike Oldfield. This is probably after Tubular Bells or whatever. I don't know how many records he made, but it's a quad record there. Haven't played it yet. I wasn't really much of a Fleetwood Mac fan because if you remember like the late 70s, it's like you couldn't escape them. It's like Rumors was just played to death on FM radio, rock radio, so it's like I got thoroughly sick of Fleetwood Mac. I think I might have had a copy of Rumors, but it's like, why play it? It's like you've heard every song on there a zillion times. But anyway, I did, out of the members, I like Christine McVie. I like her, kind of like her mature singing style. I've said this before about women singers. If you're white, don't be afraid to sound white. Don't try to like caterwaul like, you know, Patti LaBelle or something. But this was her, I don't know if this was her first solo record, but anyway, this is Christine McVie. And I can't remember if I played it yet. Like I said, I've had this record for a while. But and I paid. Here's something totally different. I picked this up. I kind of like reggae. Is kind of like a little bit is okay. I'm pretty open-minded, but you know, probably the most famous guy here, Bob Marley, and the Wailers. Let's say Rastaman Vibration. Haven't played it yet. I think you got to be in a certain mood to listen to something like that. Here's another vintage record. Famous group, vocal group, the Shirelles. This has some collectible value there, so featuring Soulja Boy there. I know it might be worth like $20-30 maybe, I don't know. And last but not least, probably a famous record, not really. I mean, I got it because, you know, he's like kind of that British heavy rock. The birth of that was T-Rex here, Electric Warrior. You know, if you were like a kid in the mid 70s, you probably had this in your collection. You probably bought it when it came out. So that's it. That's those finds for now. And like I said, I had this all this time. I didn't take a sip. But in closing, well, this one almost came, another almost 20-minute video here. So all I want to say is, like, you know, if you're like me, your time is so valuable, and you know, I don't have time to listen to hear crap music. You know, I prepare, like I said, nice thing about records, you prepare your mind for an event. You put that on there, and it's like, okay, I want to listen to something I want to listen to. You know, records are probably like the first music on demand way back, you know, 100 years ago when you bought some 78 or whatever, you put it on your gramophone, cranked it up, and, you know, you had the record you wanted, you were looking for a certain record. And we still have that now. And you own it. That's another thing. You talk about, people talk about this too. It's like you own that music, you own that record. You know, it's not like stuck in your computer where you can't, like, you know, make a hard copy or whatever. I mean, you can, and you could burn it or whatever, but still, you don't have the full sound quality that you do with an analog record, or even if it's a digital cleaned up version or a re-release, it's still going to be the best sound in your house or through your headphones if you play it through analog equipment. So with that, I'd say goodbye for now, and I'm going to be making another video in just a few minutes after I check this one out, make sure everything got recorded right. So until then, I'll see you, and I hope you you know, whatever goes in your ears is something you want to hear. So bye for now.